happy Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Day. So I am going to go back and forth between my Facebook Live and Instagram Live because last week my Facebook Live was misbehaving and I ended up having to re-record everything anyway. So in case Facebook misbehaves, I have a backup plan and I'm just going to talk on both the IG and Facebook at the same time. So I hope you guys are having a good Monday. Did you guys do anything for Martin Luther King Day? Feel free to drop in the comments. I'm just gonna see if anyone else is joining. And then I'm gonna get right into our topic. All right, so I wanted to talk, I've been thinking a lot about entertainment and entertaining, and you can do the live in one software that allows you to project the live on every social place you want. Okay, Larry, tell me more about this. How do I do that? In one software? All right, I need to know this. I'm not good with tech. Please. Thank you for letting me know I can do it in just one software, though. That would be really good. Then I won't be looking at two things and all over the place. So anyway, yes, I wanted to talk about the word entertain and entertainment because the word, I wondered if anyone had thought about this. The word entertain, StreamYard or restreaming. Okay, so StreamYard is for podcasts, but I can do it for lives too? I feel like I want to write this down. The other one I haven't heard of, Restreamio or StreamYard. Thank you, Larry. I didn't know StreamYard could do anything besides podcasts. Cool. Awesome. I love it. I'm learning from my former student. This is great. The student becomes the teacher. Thank you, Larry. So I hope everything's going well. I hope you guys, you and your sisters are doing well in school and everything in college. So let me know how it's going. But yes, so back to, the idea of entertaining and what are we entertaining in our minds? What are we entertaining? Because the word entertain has the word enter in it. And enter means that something is coming in. So whatever we're entertaining, stories, music, thoughts, grudges, whatever we're entertaining is actually programming our mind. And that way, if we're entertaining things that are healthy for us, we are programming our minds to live and our bodies to live in a healthy way. But if we're programming our minds with all sorts of garbage, that's leading us to have fear and anger, then of course, we're not going to be going in a good direction. And one thing that I've noticed, wait, let's see, Larry, you can go live on your laptop and you can share photos while you are live and put texts? What? Hi, Richard. Thanks for joining. Okay, all right. So interesting. I'm gonna have to look into this, definitely. All right. So, thinking back, like things that we have been entertaining usually go back to our childhood. Think back even to your childhood. So a lot of times the things, the thoughts, and the feelings and emotions that we're going through now, they have come to us not just in the past couple years, but a lot of times even from childhood, especially like when we are, things in our childhood, maybe people were speaking either negative things into our lives, and so we grew up not feeling self-confident, or they were speaking positive things into our lives and telling us, you can do it, everything. And so as a result, we grow up feeling confident. So the things that we've even been entertaining or heard from other people growing up has impact on us. And I was thinking specifically today about Martin Luther King Jr. because, what he entertained in order to do the work that he did had to have been something completely different from what almost everyone else in society was entertaining at the time. Because, right, he was doing things, he was challenging systems, he was literally trying to change society, and society was not wanting it. Most of society, a lot of people were not really for this, and even if they were for it, what he was doing, they were afraid to speak out. They were afraid, right? And I was thinking about things that he did, like the march to Selma, right? The first time he tried it, it went very, very badly, right? He tried to cross a bridge, and he was met by police officers, dogs, and people got hurt. It was mayhem. It was bad. And as a leader, not only did he have to, support the people who were hurting at the end of that first attempt, but he had to get the strength in his mind in order to be able to try it again and succeed and get to where he was going, which was Selma. So the things that we entertain are so important, especially right now. I feel like, I was not alive in the 50s. I was not alive in the 60s. And I certainly am not, as a Ukrainian, French, English woman, going to try to pretend that I even understand what he was going through as a black man. But at the same time, I have to think that, it had to have been so difficult. What was he doing? He was entertaining different things. There had to have been different books that he was reading from what the average person was doing. There had to have been different music, different mentors, right? Different things that were supporting him in being able to step up and face fear, because he would have had to have been totally crazy to have not been afraid, right? You're threatened, your family's life is threatened. And so yet you're still able to, in the face of fear, in the face of failure, or what looks like failure, the face of extreme hate, right? Continue to still every day get up and be able to continue on and not give up, literally until the very end, knowing that you might give your life for it. And a lot of people, did. He wasn't the only one, right? There was a lot of blood that was shed. And at the same time, today we are also living in a country that is gripped by fear. It's different things that maybe we're afraid of now. Obviously, racism still is unfortunately alive and well, but also, sickness, that is something that people are very afraid of. Hi, Abdu. And so what are we doing? Because I would like to say that what we're going to entertain in our minds, what we're going to entertain in our thoughts, is going to program us for how we're going to continue on in our futures, right? Are we going to continue to live in fear or intimidation about whatever we see happening around us? Or are we going to, step out even if we're afraid and continue and live our lives and do the best that we can, as well as, help make the world different from, the way it was when we were born into it, right? So our lives should somehow impact our world, should somehow impact our communities. There should be some change for the better when we do leave this planet, right? At least that's what I believe. And it's not going to be easy. So from a Christian perspective, one thing that I can say about fear is that fear is not from God. So if we are living in fear, that fear is not coming from God. It says that God does not give us a spirit of fear, but he gives us a spirit of power, of sound mind, and of love. So if we are looking at things and we are seeing things happen around us that are being driven by fear, then we know that those things are not from God. Also, other places from a Christian's perspective, you can learn that Satan God's enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And so if we are seeing things happen in the world, they're stealing people's lives, stealing people's peace, stealing people's joy, killing people's peace, joy, and killing order, making chaos, and destroying people's peace and joy, then those things cannot possibly be from God. Those things have to be from at least from a Christian perspective, from, the kingdom of darkness. Those are not things that we want to continue to entertain. And if we really want to make a change in the world, then we have to, at some point, do something different to counter that, to speak out against it, even if we're afraid. And it says also in Psalms 51, something that it says that, I don't know if it was David or someone else who wrote it. I'm not a theologian, so I'm not exactly sure who wrote that particular psalm, but it says, create in me a clean heart and renew in me a right spirit. So that means that in order for us to fight fear, in order for us to be able to then, when we fight that fear, be able to help others overcome their fears, and make whatever changes it is that we want to see in the world for humanity, we don't just wake up and just bounce out of bed and it just become Superwoman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, whatever overnight. We literally have to create. Creating is a process. So if we want to overcome fear, we actually have to kind of have our minds reprogrammed. And so we're asking God to create in me a new clean heart. The things in our heart often are what come out of our mouths, or often what goes up to our brain. So if our heart is afraid, then our brain is going to recognize danger, warning, runs, fight, whatever it happens to be. But creating, that is a whole process. So for example, I'm a photographer. When I create an image, I have to meet with my client and think about a plan. How are we going to do our photo shoot? What is the photo shoot even going to look like? Then the day of the photo shoot comes. It doesn't magically happen. I have to get my equipment out. I have to, make some adjustments to the setting on my camera. I might change a lens in or out, right? I make adjustments for where the person is facing the light. The person who's being photographed also has to create poses. Of course, I'll talk them through it, but then once the photo shoot is over, I have to take those photos, go onto my computer and do basic edits. And then I send them off to my client, and then depending on what my client wants to do, does something with the images, either to promote their brand or whatever it is that they're doing. There is this whole process. It is not this one and done, one moment, an instant, it's done. And so this is similar to, asking God to create in us a clean heart. It's a process, overcoming fear, especially if we have been born since childhood almost, and lived with family who was afraid, and passed that fear onto us and insecurities or whatever it was, or we've looked at society and seen how society has treated us, or we just look at the news. Personally, I think the last thing this is just my opinion, the last thing anyone should be watching is the news nonstop, because that will they do call it programming. So programming, I don't know, could be about programming your mind. So, it's not the best place to be going if you want to be creating new experiences for yourself and being able to live free from fear in particular. And then renew in me a right mind. So in addition to discovering new ways of thinking or producing new thoughts, you're also, when you're renewing your spirit, that's your emotions, that's your intellect, that's your everything. So you're reopening things, you are restoring things, you're awakening. It's a rebirth. Those are synonyms for renew. So think about rebirth. So you were born, right? We were all born into this world as a baby physically, but then a rebirth, we have to have a rebirth almost of our heart. Maybe it requires forgiveness of people who have hurt us. A rebirth in our thinking, right? getting into new situations, putting ourselves into new places, surrounding ourselves with new mentors, possibly getting a whole new circle of friends. What books have you read lately? I mean, just even from a business perspective, a lot of business owners, they read a lot of books to get new ideas. The successful, like millionaire, billionaires, they're learning constantly, right? So if we're trying to overcome something like fear, because that's kind of my theme that I'm talking about right now is fear, because it's like really been bothering me what I've been seeing lately, how so many people are operating in it. And I want to see people free from it. So, but it's like a rebirth. We have to go back through and learn new ways to think. And the best way to do that is to expose ourselves to new ideas, right? And so a book can do that. I was yesterday, actually, this is just like a little side, but it has to do with fear and how it can cost us when we walk in it. So I was doing a little light reading yesterday called "Is Atheism Dead?" Right? And so I was reading about E equals MC squared and Einstein and the Big Bang Theory, and I learned that Einstein was afraid. He created this theory that pretty much proved that time, the universe, had a specific starting point. It could go and be traced with his formula all the way back to a specific pinpointed point in time, versus science in general was saying that time was eternal. There was no starting point. It had just always existed. The universe, was kind of always there, but he had figured out and he had proven that the universe really had a specific point in time. And he was afraid. He was afraid to kind of come out right out and say all of this, because he was afraid of what his fellow scientists, his fellow colleagues might say about him. And so he called it I wrote it down because I'm not a scientist, so it was the first time I'd heard of this. He called it the Cosmological Constant. And he basically just came up with this idea to kind of fudge the fact that he'd found the truth, that there was a specific point in time, like I said. And just to make other scientists and science comfortable and to not rock the boat too much. And the end result was that other scientists kind of looked at things that he had done and proved his theory correct. And he didn't really get the full credit that he deserved for the Big Bang Theory, because he was afraid. He was afraid to go all the way out and say the truth about what he learned. And so when we operate in fear, it costs us. It costs us professionally. It costs us awards and recognitions that we could have otherwise had. It can cost us, just so many things. It can cost the world, right? That knowledge, right? So he was kind of holding things up a little bit by not going all the way out with the truth. Why hold up science? I don't know. But anyway, that was that. So we have to be in such a way that even when it's hard, we still go forward with it. And I was also watching, I'm just gonna go talk about this one too, a biography on John Lewis recently. Hi Annie, how are you? How's your bunny? I was watching this documentary on John Lewis, and he has this famous quote for good and necessary trouble. He would get into good and necessary trouble, because what if he hadn't gotten into good and necessary trouble? Things would not be as good as they are, right? But he also said that when you lose your sense of fear, you are free, which is very similar to, even from a Christian perspective, whom the Son sets free, Jesus is free indeed. So fear kind of gives us this binding, it just holds us back. It holds us back. Maybe we're afraid to forgive someone, because what will happen? What does that mean if I forgive someone? So we withhold forgiveness because we're afraid. We may be afraid to start all over again in our careers, or we may be afraid to start a new business, right? Well, what does that actually really mean for ourselves and for the world if we don't step out and try something new? What could happen, right? So that fear holds us back from the possibility. And I also found really interesting when I was watching his documentary on John Lewis, what he was doing is he had mentorship. He had mentors. So he had people, despite the fact that his family was saying, oh, don't rock the boat, like this could be bad for you. He had mentors like Martin Luther King Jr. who were on his side, who were encouraging him, who were helping him. So it's like our circle is so important. Who we surround ourselves is so important, because that can, help us either continue in the path of tradition or break free into something new. Also, books. It said in the documentary he had teachers when he was younger, and they just told him to read everything, read all the books you can read. So, he's getting new insights, new perspectives, right? So this is something that is a great way to help us overcome fear and to help us do things that are different, that are out of the norm, because you're learning and you're able to see things from a different perspective and just take that risk. Also, he practiced. He trained his mind. He trained his body. It was talking about in the documentary that I was watching how prior to doing the protests in Nashville at the lunch counters, they trained. They didn't just show up at the lunch counter unprepared. They went prior to group meetings, and they sat down and they did simulations of what would happen and how they would, to practice that self-control. Because of course, if you're in I would imagine if I was in a restaurant and someone came up to me and started calling me names and threatening me and everything, I'd be a little afraid, right? And knowing me and my mouth, I'd also talk back. He didn't just show up and face, difficult situations without preparing himself. He prepared, he trained, they did simulations, they practiced, and they pretended with each other, they role played what would happen and what people might say, what people might do to them, so that when he went into that situation, his brain was already strong. And that's just, we want certain things for ourselves, right? For our communities, we want those things. We have expectations for them. But how much do we prepare in advance? And that preparation is so key, so that even in the moment you're going to be afraid. Let me tell you, IG lives are not my favorite thing. I'm always kind of I don't want to do this. But you just kind of do it, and you prepare your mind in advance, and so that you can still keep going and pushing forward into the next place that you're supposed to go, despite, and you don't have the fear. You are telling the fear, no, you can't come any further. I am going to do this. And he also did groups. He was part of different groups. So these are some things that you can do yourself to help overcome fear. What's your environment? Who are you around? Where are you getting your information from? Is this information, if you're from a Christian perspective, is this information from God that I'm getting? Because if this information is from God, or if this situation is from God, I'm going to have peace, I'm going to have love, and I'm going to have a sound mind. And if this information, all this stuff around me is chaotic, destructive, killing people's joy, or literally killing people, stealing people's peace, it's from the kingdom of darkness. And so literally, we can, especially as Christians, if you are from a Christian perspective, know pretty easily where things are coming from when they're coming at you. So if you're operating in a spirit of fear and you're choosing fear, you know that you're not walking with God. You're knowing if you're walking in peace and love, then you know you're walking with God. So those are some things, those are my tips for, entertaining, what to entertain, because what we do entertain does enter us. It enters our eyes, it enters our ears. Even if we're like entertaining certain types of foods, it's entering our bodies literally. So, what we entertain can change literally not only our lives, but it can literally change, our sphere of influence, our neighborhoods, our communities, our society, the world even, depending on what level of leader you are, going to be. I mean, not everyone is a Martin Luther King Jr. Yep. I'm so glad I did this on Instagram Live, because Facebook it just decided it didn't want to do anything anymore, and it just cut me off. but anyway, so all that being said, I lost my train of thought a little bit. So all that being said, it's incredibly important what we entertain, because, other people in addition to us are dependent on us. Like if Martin Luther King had entertained different ideas, if he had entertained fear, if he had entertained his insecurities, if he had entertained, indecisiveness, things would have not gone the way they did. We'd be even further behind than we already are in society with, equality. So it's so important what we entertain, because that's what makes us or builds us into the strong men and women that we were meant to be by God, or it can break us and hold us back from being, the man or the woman of God that we were meant to be, and the influencer in the world and the leader that we were meant to be. So think about, what you're entertaining, be conscious of it. And I do encourage you all to just kind of turn your TVs off, because those probably are not going to be helping you, especially if you're watching the news a lot, entertain you into a successful place. And I'm not saying be an ostrich, stick your head in the sand and, not know what's going on around you, but, we really do need to be careful of what we entertain. All right, so have a wonderful Monday evening, and have a great week. And I will be doing another live next Monday, most likely, if not sooner. And otherwise, have a great, peaceful night. All right, peace.